Okay, and we're live at the sit down here with who are you, sir?
I am Jamey Stegmaier. I run Stegmaier Games. And you?
I am Barry Reynolds. I'm just a bum with a camera. Um, so, how did you get started in the board game hobby there, Jamie?
Well, I started playing games.
Barry Reynolds. I'm just a bum with a camera.
I started playing games when I was young. When I was 6, 7 years old, I played chess, Stratego, Scotland Yard, and Labyrinth, Monopoly, games like that. I just loved them, so I started designing games around that same age as well. Maybe when I was 6, 7 years old. But I really got back into games as an adult because I played games my entire life, but I not as consistently as I do now. I got into that about through Settlers of Catan and then through Agricola about 6 years ago, and then I've been playing heavy games pretty heavily for 3 or 4 years now, I would say. What about you?
Almost the same timeline. I pandemic got me into it about 3 years ago. I played some mass-produced games like Risk and Monopoly and all that when I was younger, but
Yeah.
as far as the designer, pandemic got me into it. It was right after my mother died about 3 years ago, I think. And I used it to bring my family together. My sister took my mother's death pretty hard. And I got sick of watching her, my wife, and my sister-in-law playing on the iPhones at the table, playing the same game but not talking to each other. So I was out at Target, and every year I get Jenna board games, and she's got games that are older than I am. And I've seen Pandemic, and I thought it sounded interesting. I brought it home, and that led to the 300 behind me. So yeah, and the channel evolved after that. So, what made you get into design seriously?
A big part of it was the rise of Kickstarter. That kind of gave me the encouragement to give it a try on my own. Because for a long time, anyone could submit a game to a publisher and see if they liked it. But I really loved Kickstarter on its own. I love the concept. I loved the idea of being a creator on Kickstarter. And I also love board games. And I started to see a few games on Kickstarter, like Eminent Domain and Rise from Crash Games and Alien Frontiers. A few of these games that at that point seemed very successful, and they were successful. And it kind of it made me think, okay, I want to give this a shot. And so that's when I started designing Viticulture. Have you played Viticulture?
Yes, I have. I haven't played it with the expansion, but I have played the base game. And it's a real good, I won't say gateway, just like a step above gateway worker placement game. People can relate to it pretty easily. So how long did it take you to, go from idea to finish with Viticulture?
It took about, let's see, I started designing it in like October of 2011, and then I put it on Kickstarter in August of 2012, so a little less than a year. But it continued to evolve during the Kickstarter campaign, because one of the things I really learned is that I didn't blind play test it much at all, really. I didn't realize how important that was until the Kickstarter campaign happened and people started coming to me and saying, hey, can I print this and play this at home and test it? And so kind of organically, blind play testing ended up happening during the campaign. So the game continued to be developed during that time, up until the point where we sent the files to the printer in like November of 2012. So about a year of development.
Okay.
Yeah. Have you ever play tested games that are like blind play tested games that are in progress?
Yeah, I did Ashes from Planet. Very early on. They took a couple hiatuses, and I went through the first run and then part of the second run, and then I got really tied up at work. And then I went to what's that one Daryl does? Unpub 5 last year, and I did a couple play tests there.
Yeah.
And it's kind of amazing how, like, at Unpub you see really rough versions to, like, pretty nice versions. But with Plaid Hat, they already had some of the final art and some of the playtest material that I was doing.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to see how different people handle playtesting.
How did they have you do the dice? Did you use your own dice and put stickers on them, or?
Yeah, I bought blank dice and then printed out a sticker sheet and cut them and paste them, and I gave Isaac hell for that afterwards.
Uh-huh.
It was 6 sides times, I think it was 20 dice.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I think it was 20 dice. It might have been 15. It was the minimum you needed. It was a lot of cut and paste. Yeah. And then the cards, you just print them out and put them in card sleeves with a backer. And that was something he tried really hard to get that perfect. Every iteration was totally different from the last. He was tweaking with the rules constantly. So we constantly printing off cards. All right, before we get too far in, we got a question for the viewers. So we got Matthew Walsh here wants to know, how do you feel about the hobby scene in St. Louis? How it's growing, and what would be great in St. Louis to enforce this town as a board game city?
That's a good question. And I have my own gaming group that I mostly play with. My main connection to I have a couple connections to the greater scene, the greater community. One is Geekway to the West, which is a big convention or growing convention here in May. And that is definitely the time when I really have that sense of community in St. Louis. And my other connection is through Greater Than Games. They make Sentinels of the Multiverse. I work with them for warehousing and distribution brokerage. So I kind of just like knowing them and knowing and a couple other designers in town, like John Covey of Genius Games. He's in my gaming group. So I'm prefacing this because I think there are pockets of communities in St. Louis that are built mostly around game stores. So like there's Game Night, a store called Game Night where people congregate and play games, and there are a couple other stores like that. And so I think there are like all these mini communities, and they really come together for Geekway, which I like, and it's kind of helped me appreciate the value of having a convention, a sizable convention in every city, so that people can have that chance to come together at least once a year to see how big the community is, because otherwise you don't really know. Like what about you? Do you have your own little gaming group? Do you game at a house, or do you go to a game store? What's your
mainly I do it here with the family. I go up to Pennsylvania a couple times a week. I game with the Secret Cabal guys.
Oh, cool.
I'm sorry, a couple times a month. There is a store around the corner from me that has a gaming night. I think it's every other Tuesday or something like that. And I went once, and I live near a college town, and I don't get their sense of humor. So it was kind of uncomfortable. Yeah. And there are some meetups around here. I haven't really went to any of them. Yeah. But yeah, mainly it's either here or up in Pennsylvania with the Caballos guys.
That's cool. That's awesome. Actually, I love listening to their podcasts. Are they fun to game with?
Oh yeah, I said, if you ever want to play the Ameritrash game, play it with Jamey. Jamey, he gets you into your role plays. We were playing Euphoria Dracula the other day, and he got all into that. He's a good guy, and so is Chris. Although Chris just knocks pieces all over the place. You're constantly picking up after him. But yeah, they're great guys.
Cool.
So you have your own play testing date once a year or so, right? You gather like 30, 40 people.
In my group, I missed the question.
I'm sorry. I was reading you hold like a party, a game day for yourself. Is it just play testing there? You just had one recently.
Oh yeah. The design day. Yeah. The Stomach
Design
Games design day. Yeah. That is, it's kind of like Unpub, really. It's very similar to Unpub or Proto-Spiel, with the one key difference being that we spend like 2/3 of the day playtesting prototypes of designers from St. Louis and around the country. And then we spend 1/3 of the day learning games that we haven't played before with the intent of becoming better designers from learning those games. So we're basically learning new games, or people are teaching games and learning new games, but like people go into it with a mindset of, I want to learn this game because I want to see the interesting things that it does so that I can be a better game designer. And we have it's been, I guess we've done it 2 years. Yeah, we've done it 2 years now, and we'll keep doing it every fall, I think, because people seem to get a lot out of it. And it's the one like nice thing that Stegmaier gets out of it, other than bringing people together, which is great, is that it gives me a chance to scout out some designs from other designers that we might publish. So it's an easy way to see a bunch of games from other designers all at once.
Oh, cool. So how much different do you go in and look at a game now that you design on?
Like if we're thinking about publishing a game from another designer.
Well, no, just say you're casually playing a game. Do you look at it differently being a designer as you were, as opposed to 4 years ago when you weren't?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, sometimes I try not to. Sometimes I just try to turn off and enjoy the game. And I'm usually able to do that after I play it a few times. But the first time, I'm always, I mean, I guess I can't really turn it off. I'm always trying to find out where I'm really connecting with the game, where people seem to become disinterested in it, when there's downtime, when there's imbalances and things like that. But mostly, I mean, there's always like a few negative things, but I mostly try to focus on the positive stuff and take that away and figure out if I can apply that to any of my designs in the future. I think every game, even like the worst games, have some clever thing in them.
Yeah, I'd agree with that for the most part.
Yeah.
There's one. But anyway. Yeah, I actually hear that a lot from a lot of game designers. They're always dissecting. They can't help it.
Right.
Some of them even to the point where they're pricing out how much it would cost to make it.
Yeah, I'm always looking at the components thinking, oh, okay, they did 2 millimeters thick cardboard here. Maybe we should do that, or 3 millimeters. Yeah, it's hard to turn that off. Do you look at games that way too? Are you a components guy? Do you love a game with really nice components, or is that not important to you?
At first it is. Usually the theme and the components draw me in, and then the mechanic or mechanism is according to Lance. But yeah, it's usually the theme that draws me in first, and then the bright and shiny. But the mechanisms catch on. Well, I played Puerto Rico for the first time a couple weeks ago, and I enjoyed it. I can see how some people, there's a strategy to it. I can see how older players they'll get frustrated with that because you can see a set pattern in the game, sort of like Monster or whatnot. But I did enjoy the mechanisms of that game more than I thought. It held up surprisingly well for being 15 years old or whatever it is.
Yeah, I agree. It's like I think a lot of games have borrowed from the mechanisms that originated in Puerto Rico. The action selection, I think that was one of the first games to have action selection of any type.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I guess they call it, is it role selection in the game or action selection? I'm not sure exactly what they call it. I think it's probably it's kind of a little bit of both. They're actions, but they're represented by people. Yeah.
So you have a little video log there called my favorite, whatever. You know, where did that come from?
Well, I've been writing like my Kickstarter blog for a couple of years now, but I love talking about game design and game mechanisms. And I've been wanting to do it for a while. I think it was around last year when I started doing it, around a year ago. And at first I was like, well, maybe I could review games, but because I'm a publisher and a designer, I'm really uncomfortable reviewing someone else's game. It just doesn't, something feels off about it. And so I was like, oh, it's kind of the thing that I said a few minutes ago, where like, even in the worst games or games that I don't like recently I did a Fury of Dracula video.
Mm-hmm.
After I've only played it once, I really didn't enjoy the play, but it still had some really clever things about it. And so even in a game where I didn't enjoy, it's fun for me to talk about like the thing that I consider the most clever about it in terms of game design. Because it's fun for me to talk about, and hopefully like for the other designers that watch the video, maybe they can get something out of it too.
All right.
Yeah.
So what didn't you like?
What was that?
Sorry, go ahead. What didn't you like about Fury of Dracula? I'm just curious.
What didn't I like? So it was a 4-hour game, which is probably because it was a learning game. I'm guessing maybe it doesn't quite run that long in a non-learning game, but it was one of those games whereby like maybe an hour in, I was hoping for it to end. And at that point, I hadn't quite figured out why yet. I mean, I just knew, like in my gut, I was like, oh, I would love if there would be a way for us to end this game right now. And then there was, a second hour, third hour, fourth hour. And I think a big part of it is that I've come to admit that I just don't think I enjoy hidden movement games. Like I don't enjoy, like I feel like I'm stumbling around in the dark for 3 hours, and I don't enjoy that. So while I see it as like it's a very cleverly built game, but it's just not for me. What about you? You said you played it recently.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I actually think that's my favorite out of those hidden movement games.
Yeah.
But it hinges on the player being Dracula or Jack the Ripper or whatever,
Yeah.
The game heavily hinges on that. Yeah. Like I said, Jamey was Dracula, and he was pretty aggressive with it. Like he hit around for about 4 or 5 rounds, and then he actively went out and attacked us. Yeah, so he kept the players' engagement.
That's interesting. Because that didn't happen in our game, but I could see that being a lot more interesting. Like in our game, the Dracula player just did what most players do in hidden movement games, where he just hid and ran away. But I hadn't thought about how that game has a built-in mechanism to get Dracula to actually attack.
Yeah, I think that's why like most of them were reactive. This one's kind of proactive. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have witnessed it was like a 5.5 hour game of the second edition of Fury of Dracula, where Dracula just hid the whole game, and I could see how that would turn people off.
Yeah.
All right, we got another question before we got a couple questions. Holy shit! All right. So one is from Sam Smiths. Says, what is your favorite gateway game and why?
My favorite gateway game, it changes. I'll name a couple of them, then I'll name the one that I think is my favorite right now. I love Ticket to Ride as a gateway game. I love Splendor as a gateway game, but I think the one I would choose is Forbidden Desert, because I love the game. It's probably my favorite cooperative game. And it's so streamlined, but it's full of interesting decisions. And I think the key is that it's cooperative. I think cooperative games are great gateway games. Like you mentioned, Pandemic was one of the first games that got you into gaming.
Yeah.
And it's just cooperative games are inherently, they're inviting because they're not competing against each other. Those are 3 that come to mind. And Between Two Cities, which is a game that we published, but I think it's a fantastic gateway game.
I haven't played it. I have it. I just haven't gotten into the deal.
What about you? What comes to mind? Like if you had a new gamer come to your game group, what game would you introduce to them?
Most likely cooperative game, like you said. And then, like you said, Ticket to Ride, Carcassonne.
Carcassonne, yeah.
there was another one I just played recently, and I can't remember what it was. Again, it depends on the theme too.
Yeah,
What the players are into.
that's true.
Yeah, I guess Memoir 44. If they want to, well, no, actually 1775 would be a better gateway game for gaming, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little more streamlined than Memoir. But yeah, it depends on the player.
Have you played Patchwork?
No, I haven't.
I would put, if it was a 2-player game, it would be Patchwork for me. It's a wonderful 2-player game.
Yeah, I've heard good things. I just haven't picked it up.
Yeah.
It's on the list with many others.
Uh-huh.
All right, so we have another one here. It says, what game besides Scythe are you most looking forward in the next year?
Let's see. So they're talking about any game, not just games that I'm designing, I'm guessing. They're probably talking about any game.
Yeah, I'm assuming that's what it is.
I would say two that I'm really excited about are Seafall and Gloomhaven. Two legacy games. I don't know if Seafall will actually happen next year. I know we've been waiting for it for a while, but Gloomhaven, I think Isaac's pretty confident he'll have it out next year. I love legacy games. I really, really enjoy them, and they're the type of game that gets me really excited in advance. So I would say those two. What about you?
Probably Seafall. I have to look into Gloomhaven. I haven't really looked into that too much. I do like the legacy game. Me and Jen are going through a pandemic legacy right now.
Oh, nice.
What else? I really don't look too far in advance with board games. So I got enough backlog, Yeah. Yeah, I can't think of anything off the top of my mind. There was a worker placement game that came out in Essen, but as far as I know, it was limited in English. It was about running a movie studio in the 20s or 30s. I don't know if it'll be released over here, but I would like to see that released over here. I think Jen would get into that. She likes the black and white movies and all that.
Okay. That's cool.
I'm trying to remember the name of it now, and it's escaping me. But yeah, I really don't look too far in advance. All right, so another one here from Matt Walsh says, in designing expansions, are the ideas fully fleshed out and play tested, or does the expansion evolve from the original intention?
Yeah, that's a good question. It depends on the game. So, for Viticulture, I had a bunch of ideas for expansions, and a few of them stemmed from things that I wanted to fix a little bit about Viticulture, and a few of them were just ways that I wanted to make it bigger and deeper and heavier and just add more stuff. I think there are a lot of different intentions there. And with Tuscany, I just put them all in there. There were, there's 12 expansions in Tuscany. With Scythe, I'm designing the first expansion right now, and it's much more focused because I'm designing 2 factions and I'm adding a few more cards that are already in the game, more encounter cards, more objective cards. And so it's very focused, and I've enjoyed that process because I still have ideas for other stuff that I want to do later, but right now I'm able to just focus on that one specific thing, which is really helpful for me in the design process. Yeah, so that's where I am right now. Let's see if that answers Matthew's question.
Okay.
Yes, are they fleshed out, play tested? As they're not. I haven't started playtesting the Scythe expansion yet. As it's playtested, I'm sure it will continue to evolve quite a bit. Do you have a favorite expansion, Barry, that you think of when you think of expansions?
Not really. I guess the one for Cover Mystica. just because it has more, it has more races, kind of cool combinations of what they can do there.
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to think of what else. Not really. Yeah, I don't. I'm kind of the guy who likes expansions just to add more of the base game. I don't like expansions that have to fix the base game.
Right.
So yeah, I don't like too many new rules added on to expansions, stuff like that.
Yeah, that was a concern when I was designing Tuscany. That's one of the reasons that, like in Tuscany, you're not supposed to play. You're not supposed to open the box and play with everything. You're supposed to play with like one expansion, which has very short rules. Like each expansion doesn't have any rules, so you just read the rules for the one expansion, you add it in there, and then when you're ready to add more stuff, you do that as well.
Right.
Kind of a slow unraveling of them, so it's not too much information. Which is kind of like Pandemic Legacy, right? Where you're unlocking new rules one by one by one.
Yeah, it is. And I found that kind of cool, especially how it veers off right from the first game. Yeah.
Right. Right.
So you're making, I guess, just the third printing of Viticulture with kind of a combination of Tuscany in it, right? When did you go with that idea?
Well, it was the original plan was that we were just going to continue to release the second edition, because the second edition is exactly what I wanted the game to be. It fixed all the stuff from the first edition. It was in a good place. But then Uwe Rosenberg, the designer of Agricola and Caverna and Bonanza and Patchwork and a ton of other amazing games, he contacted me. He's like my design idol. He contacted me and said that he really enjoyed Viticulture and Tuscany, and he wanted to make a German printing of it and work with me on that. And in the German printing, he wanted to add a few of the simple things in Tuscany into the base game of Viticulture because he thought they belonged there. And so we talked about what that meant for the game. And I didn't want to have like a German version that was distinctly different from the US version or whatever the other versions I was making. And so I just decided to make one more edition of Viticulture that would have that stuff. So it has a few of the Tuscany elements. And just proceed with that from now on as the real official version. And yeah, it's on the boat right now. It's actually stuck at customs right now in California, but it should be a day or two away from getting to our fulfillment center in the U.S. And it'll be released to retail in December.
Oh, cool. Now, what about people with the second edition? Do they just buy add-ons, or do they have to buy Tuscany?
Yeah, so I wanted to give them a choice. So they can buy Tuscany, and I recommend that they do buy Tuscany because I think there's a lot of stuff in there. Like you can play Viticulture forever if you have Tuscany. But I did, for people who don't want Tuscany but do want the differences between the second edition and the essential edition, I have a little box. See where it is. Here we go. It's just a little box called the Viticulture Essential Upgrade Pack. And so it's just a little box that has a bunch of stuff in it, like all the visitor cards and the property cards and whatnot. So that people can, really, we packed the stuff in here. This is, I don't know if you can see it, but that's like, it's just fully packed with cards. There's no cushion in there for those people. I mean, I don't know how many of these will actually sell because I don't know if, I think many people will just jump to Tuscany, but I have it just in case people want it.
Yeah, I thought about Tuscany. I got to play the base game a little bit more. But it's kind of an expensive expansion. It's almost as much as the base game.
It's more expensive.
There's a lot of stuff in it now, but
yeah.
And I like that you can pick and choose on that one. And I heard good things about the new board and all that.
Yeah.
So, is it safe to say that Euphoria is your least successful game? I guess you would say.
I mean, it's the lowest rated game I have, but it's still like, I think I'm working deep. It's like a 7.4 something right now, which is still a good game. It sold more copies worldwide than any other game. So, like in terms of sales, is actually the most successful game that we have. Yeah, but I think Euphoria is the most divisive game that I have. Like, I think there are plenty of people who really love it, and there are people who do not like it at all. And I see both sides. I love it, and I as a 6-player game, a 6-player like Euro game with a decent amount of theme to it, it can play in about an hour, which is that wasn't. I kind of stumbled upon that when I was designing it. There's some mechanisms that let it really move along at a quick pace for 5 or 6 players, and so I'm proud of it. I mean, we're going to continue to support it. We have an expansion that's going to come out for it next year.
Right.
Yeah. Have you played it?
Yeah, I own it. I enjoy it. It wasn't, you said the workers get smarter and dumber and all that.
Right.
It wasn't what I was expecting, but I do enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The mechanisms weren't quite what I was expecting, but I do enjoy it. It's actually on the list of being on the channel.
Cool.
There's that and viticulture. I just got to get them to the table more. It's me and Jen are having a hard time with timing right now. Her father's going through some stuff, and we're just having a hard time getting games to the table.
Yeah.
There's a long list, but it's timing.
Yeah.
But got another. Well, before I get to that, we have another question from that. But before I get to that, I was talking to Ignacy Trzewiczek, and he was talking about Stronghold and how he hated that game when he was done with it. How do you feel about your games as you're done play testing and producing?
Yeah, that's an interesting way to put it. So what I do with my games, I don't think I ever get to the point where I hate them, but I get to the point, like with any game, if you play a game 40, 50 times in the span of a few months, you're going to get tired of it. Any game, even if it's your own design. And so what I do is when I've done that with a game, when I've designed a game, I've developed it, I've sent it to the printer, I do not play it at all until it comes out, until I can open like the real game box and play with the real components. And so it gives me a breather, because usually that's like 6 months of not playing it at all. And then I come back to it and I'm able to really enjoy it. But I do see what he's saying. I mean, it's like Scythe. Scythe I would probably play. I love Scythe. But I'm more like, I played with the prototype components so much now that I really just want the real thing. Like, I want to play with the real components. So I'm eagerly awaiting that first advanced copy from my manufacturer, so I can sit down and play with like the real mechs, the real miniatures, the real tokens, all that stuff. Yeah.
It is a pretty game. I'm waiting myself.
Is that what Ignacy was referring to? Like, just that he played his game so much that he just got tired of it?
Yeah, that's he actually said it for a while. Robinson Crusoe was the same way. He said he hated it, and he like with Stronghold, he said he didn't go back to that for a couple of years until he started the second edition recently.
Yeah.
The only game he actually would play was 51st State because of the weight flops of the game.
Yeah.
So Matt Walsh again says, what mechanics are currently missing from the game world that you would that you would look for? i.e. worker placement, deck builder, stuff like that.
Let me see. So is he saying, I'm going to pull up the question myself. Let's see. Missing from the game world. Okay. Because there's definitely mechanisms that are missing from like the Stegmaier lineup of games that I would love to bring in. But from the game world, that's tough to answer for the whole game world, because there's there's so many mechanisms out there. Like I'm always curious what the next big mechanism will be, whatever it will be, but I have no idea what that will be. But yeah, I mean, there are mechanisms and themes that I would like to add to the Stegmaier portfolio, especially like I would love to have a cooperative game in our portfolio. And so I'm designing one right now, and I'm open to other designers who are working on cooperative games. That's not quite a mechanism, but it's kind of answers this question, I think.
Yeah.
And it looks like you followed up with another question too.
Yeah, it says, notice the Easter egg with the electric St. Louis arc in one of the Scythe cards. How many more Easter eggs should we expect?
And Scythe, let's see. Because Scythe isn't my world or my, like it's the artist's world. I didn't want to impress upon him too many of the Easter eggs or crossover stuff, because on all of my games I do some Easter eggs and crossovers. So there's the arch in Scythe. There's my cats are in one of the pieces of art. Backers have seen that. And then I think there are one or two other really small things. I don't even know if people will notice. Like I'll see them and I'll get it, but not too many other things other than that. Like I'm not. Sometimes I try to put myself in the game in some way, and I'm not in Scythe at all.
All right. So when you're designing a game, how do you start off? Is it theme with you, or is it mechanisms?
Depends on the game, but usually my brainstorming process at the beginning of game design has all that stuff on the same pieces of paper. Like I'm thinking of themes, and then I'm matching them to mechanisms, and I'm thinking of mechanisms, and I'm matching the themes. So it all kind of gets mixed up together. It's definitely not like black and white, like one or the other. It's just a big mix of both of them. It really helps me as a designer if I have like as I'm thinking of mechanisms, if I have a theme to build them around, and vice versa.
All right. Cool.
Yeah.
Now, are you a fan of the fail first in designing? I know a lot of game designers are, or to get it to play testing as soon as possible. Yeah.
I think it's necessary. I wouldn't say I'm like a rapid prototyper. Like some game designers will have an idea and the next day they'll have it on the table. I usually spend a few months brainstorming. I really enjoy the brainstorming process. And it's, for me, there is a line where it's too soon to get the game to the table. But I always know that like the first time I play the game, it's not going to play out anything like how I think it will play out in my head. It'll be completely different, and it will suck. Like no matter how good I think it'll be, it will suck. And I think that's maybe tough for new designers to understand, but by now I just know for sure that that's what's going to happen. And so it's not, I don't take it personally. It doesn't slow me down. It doesn't feel like a rejection. I know it's not going to be good. So yeah, I guess that is a fail first mentality, just because I know it's going to fail. But I do enjoy. I still try to spend some time on the brainstorming process. I don't like to rush it to the table.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when do you know when to stop in a game design? When to stop adding stuff, or trimming it down, or whatnot?
That's a great question. I thought about this a lot with Scythe, because some of the backers asked me about this for Scythe. And I think with Scythe, I knew when to stop when I didn't think that there was anything else that needed fixing, which is, yeah, it's very subjective. I mean, there's always going to be a playtester who disagrees with the decision I make, and they think I should continue down a different path or continue to hone a certain mechanism. But I guess one of the things that helped with Scythe is that we had so much data from all the blind playtests that it did get to a certain point where everything was balanced, and my perception and what I was reading from playtesters was that everything was fun. And so if everything is balanced and everything is fun, then it's at a pretty good place. It's at a great place. And so that was kind of the line that I drew for Scythe when it got to that place. But it is hard to tell. I mean, it's a great question, and it's something I think designers constantly ask ourselves, like when is it good enough? When do you stop adding stuff? It's hard to tell.
Yeah,
it's more of a gut feeling.
I'm always curious with that. Like Ignacy says, playtesters are fucking liars. And other guys, they rely heavily on playtesting. Like Isaac Pega, they have spreadsheets and spreadsheets of playtest sessions from blind playtesters that they go through.
Yeah.
So that always interests me. Get down, Rich. Oh, sorry, the cat's on the table. So, what is your least favorite part about, designing and producing games?
My least favorite part. Well, actually, I wouldn't say this by quite my least favorite part, but something that is frustrating, and this is in line with what we're talking about, playtesting and design. It is a little frustrating when I am sure that the game is as good as it can be, and people are still making suggestions after that, unsolicited suggestions, especially if they haven't played the game. That's a huge pet peeve for me. Like, if you want to print and play the game or play it on Tabletopia and then give me feedback, that's cool. But it is frustrating for me to get feedback from people who don't know the game at all and are making assumptions about it. After, especially for a game like Scythe that we just play tested the hell out of, that can be a little frustrating for me. I think sometimes it comes from a good place. People are just passionate about it. They want to share their ideas, but I don't know. That can be a little frustrating, especially because I know like how much effort I put into really making the game as fun and balanced as can be. And then I think people sometimes don't realize like that. Sure, maybe they have an idea, and it's fine to express it, but they don't quite realize that to add that idea would mean going back and undoing other things and having to play test some more and redesign stuff, and that adds a lot of time, and that impacts everyone, especially with a Kickstarter project. Like, if I decided to make a change right now, it would delay the whole project, just like instantly if I made a change, because I'd have to play test it. So I think sometimes people don't quite understand like how much the smallest thing can impact a lot of people. I mean, there are 17,000 backers on Scythe, right. So it's just because they have a neat little idea doesn't mean that it's worth mentioning, because it can impact so many other people. Yeah, so I guess that's a fresh frustration, because that's something I experienced during the Scythe Kickstarter campaign.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I don't think people understand how much time and energy do go into making a game. Yeah. So Scythe is your biggest game to date, Kickstarter-wise. What are some of the challenges you face with a game that funded for 1.6 million or whatever it was?
Yeah. Well, fortunately, for the most part, in terms of like manufacturing or shipping, the systems that I have set up scale really, really well to fairly large numbers, way larger than the print run of Scythe. So like it's not like I'm shipping from my condo here. I have fulfillment centers doing the shipping, and they can handle thousands and thousands of games. The one challenge I mentioned this to you before we started recording this. I've spent all weekend going through the spreadsheet that I downloaded from Kickstarter with all the backer data, and it's a massive undertaking, and I knew it would be a lot of work, and I fortunately I love working with spreadsheets, so I'm having fun with it, but it's way more time consuming than any other project that I've worked on. And there are more add-ons on this one too, so I have to like make sure that people have written down the right thing in the survey. So that's the biggest thing, like making sure that spreadsheet, that's a really important spreadsheet, make sure everything on there is completely correct. So that's why, like, after we finish recording tonight, I'll probably go back and work on it for a few more hours because I still have a ton of data to add to it.
No.
Yeah.
Better man than me. I hate spreadsheets.
Yeah.
We got another question here. I had another one, but I forget what it is. So we'll go into Jonathan Rice's question here. It says, hey, Jamey and Barry, what are your thoughts on adult-only themes versus family-friendly themes? Is appeal a factor, or will you choose the theme that you want regardless of who it will appeal to?
You want to answer that first, Barry?
Yeah, go ahead.
Adult-only themes. That's interesting. My business partner Alan and I, we've thought about, like, we have adult sensitive humor, right? We're adults, and there are there are things that we enjoy that aren't kid friendly sometimes, and we've talked about making games with those themes, but I think they would have a pretty heavy impact on the way people view our brand.
Yeah.
Like, I think was it last year that I can't remember the company, but there was a company that has done mostly Euro games, like kind of thematic Euro games, and they came out with the lap dance game. Remember that lap dance game?
Yeah, Artipia.
Artipia, yeah. And I think people were like, what is Artipia doing? Like, this doesn't fit at all with Artipia, with what they do. I don't know if it's not a judgment on lap dance, but I think it confused people. And so as I'm trying to build a specific brand for Stegmaier, I wouldn't want to confuse people that way. But there is, like, the cooperative game that I'm working on is a pretty dark game. Like, it will have things that maybe you wouldn't want to show to a little kid, and if I think that'll be an issue, then I'll maybe tag those cards with a little icon so that parents can remove them from the game and just keep in the other ones. So I want to be cognizant of that. But yeah, I'm open to it for the right game, possibly. What about you? I mean, is that something that you think about when you select games or when you play games?
Yeah, Jen and I don't have kids, so family friendly isn't really a big issue for me. But I can see how it is for some people. I do like how the hobby is starting to expand on some tougher issues like Freedom the Underground Railroad and a few others that I can't really think of right now. Where they're heavier themes, I guess you would say.
Right.
Now, do I want to play a game about running a porn shop? No. I mean,
right.
Adult themes really wouldn't bother me.
Yeah, for me,
like you said, have an advisory for parents. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, for me, I think that's a good example. Like, I still want to make games that are fun, right? And if this dark game that I'm working on, if it's too dark and it ends up like detracting from the fun, that's a problem. Like, have you played The Grizzled?
No, not yet. It's in an order coming this week.
Okay. It's a very cleverly designed game, beautiful illustrations. The game kind of honors an artist that died in the attacks in Paris earlier this year, not the latest attack. But it's a depressing game. Like, I didn't walk away from it feeling good, which was interesting because the game, like, that's what the game wants. Like, it wants you to feel that way, and I appreciate that, but I don't want to feel that way if I can help it.
Right.
So, but I'm impressed that the game was able to pull that off. I'm curious to see what you think after you get to play it.
Yeah, it was, like I said, I'm pretty sure it's in this shipment.
Mm-hmm.
I just did a pretty big game order. But yeah, different themes will affect people differently. Like, I played a war game about the Battle of the Bulge recently. Again, my memory's bad. I can't remember the name of it. It was the first time I was exposed to this type of game.
Mhm.
But I knew Babe Heffron and Wild Bill Garnier. They were. You ever watch Band of Brothers?
Yeah.
On HBO. These guys were them. Okay,
Oh,
they
okay.
were an easy company. While Bill jumped in D-Day. You know, so knowing them guys and hearing their stories about being over there, you know, and while Bill lost his leg at the Battle of Bulge, it kind of affected me differently than I think it would most people. Yeah, and I was surprised at how it did affect me, even though it's a game. You know,
Right.
you know.
But it's still, yeah, it can, and I think sometimes that can be good. Like you mentioned, Freedom Underground Railroad. Like it's good if that game gets under your skin a little bit, right? It should. That's a good thing.
Yeah, and
but it still has to be fun in some way. Is that game fun? I haven't played it. Would you describe it as? Is there fun in that game?
I got rid of it.
Yeah.
I think the theme overpowered it for me. It wasn't, you know, we like to joke around and stuff, and you really couldn't do it with a game like that. You know, it felt disrespectful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though the game handled the matter well, you know, and respectfully, it just it wasn't, you know, you couldn't really joke around with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was a good game. It was well designed, and like I said, it handled the subject really well. It just wasn't for us.
Yeah.
All right, so I don't want to keep it too long because I'm going to be heading on the road in about 2 hours to go to BBG. So let's I'll get into the questions. Well, first let me check to make sure there's no other questions. All right. So, what is a game that you love and everybody else hates?
A game that I love that everybody else hates. That's a fun question. Looking at my collection here, I did my top 10 recently. I don't know if there is a game on there that's hated. Can you? While I look at this, do you have an answer to that?
A game that I love and everybody else hates.
Yeah.
Well, in this house, it would be Arkham Horror, but try to think. I don't know if everybody hates it. Here's a Normandy. It wasn't well received, I don't think, but they got a shitload of expansions. You know,
right.
I guess that would be it. Not that it's hated; it's just it really wasn't well received.
Okay, I do have one actually. I wouldn't say I love this game, but I am okay with playing Exploding Kittens. And I know a lot of people that just loathe that game, just probably for what it represents more than anything. But I think it's cute. I think it's fine. Like it's a fine game. And it's funny. I mean that's what I have the not safe for work version, and it's funny to me. I laugh when I play the game. Have you played it?
I almost picked it up. My wife would love that game. She loves that Cards Against Humanity and all that kind of humor. I thought about it. I just didn't. I don't know. But if I would, it would be that version of it, the a little dirtier version.
Yeah.
Joel said it was Joel Eddy said it was a pretty decent game. It wasn't the best, but it wasn't as bad as he thought it would be. So I'm pretty much on the same line as him. He's my go-to reviewer.
Oh yeah, he's great.
Yeah. All right, so what I said, one you hate and everybody. Oh no, one you love and everybody hates, right? So that would be the next one. Would be the reverse of that. What's one you hate and everybody else loves?
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple of them,
Mm-hmm.
but the big one, I think the highest ranked game that I do not like, even though as with all the games, there are things I admire about it, and I only played it once. I played Eclipse,
okay,
and I did not enjoy the experience. Like it just went on way too long, and one of my friends was like the game really incentivize players to pick on the weakest player. And so one of my friends got picked on, and he couldn't do much about it, and he had to sit there for like 3 hours without doing much of anything. And so that, even though like I was doing quite well at the time, it wasn't enjoyable for me to see someone else in that circumstance. And it takes up a ton of space. Like it took up 2 tables, so you can't even like see everything that's out there. I should do a game mechanism video about that though, because I always think of that as the game that everybody hates that I don't like, and I need to find the positivity in it, because it does have some very clever mechanisms. But I just did not enjoy it and probably would not play it again. Have you played it?
Yeah, I played it once, about a month ago or so. I didn't find it that bad. We only played with 4 players, and it did run a little long. I think it was 3 hours.
Oh, okay, right. That's not bad. It was like 6 hours for us for a 6-player game.
Yeah, games like that always worry me. Like Twilight Imperium and even Arkham. If you get more than 4 players. I don't understand why companies do that. In a game like that. Well, I guess it adds to the theme, and there is a market for that, although it's shrinking.
Yeah.
These newcomers to the hobby want 45-minute games, hour games. But I enjoyed it. I can see what you're saying. If you get hosed, you're pretty much hosed throughout the whole game.
Yeah. Do you have a game like that? A game that you dislike that most people love?
I think not really.
What about the biggest letdown? Was there any game that you were really excited about, and at the first play it was just not at all what you had hoped it would be?
Yeah, there's actually. Before I got in the hobby, I like The Walking Dead, the TV show, and Cryptozoic has a board game, and it sucks. And that was the biggest. That would be the biggest letdown so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that. I mean, I bet that happens to people a lot with IPs like that you're so invested in, that you love the show or you love the movie, and the game just doesn't live up to that experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't, the game was just really bad. The mechanisms and all that, it was horrible. Yeah, I heard their next version of it was pretty decent, but it actually turned me off the Cryptozoic.
Oh yeah.
Spyfall is the only game I own of them, I think. After that.
Yeah.
But deck builders, I guess, I really not big into them. So I guess that would be a game.
Yeah.
Like that upper deck one. What was it?
Legendary?
Yeah, the alien one. That I like that one. And Arctic Scavengers was okay, but other than that, Dominion I didn't think was all that great.
Yeah. We played that. I found that Dominion was that was one of my first like gateway games 5 or 6 years ago. I think it's a decent gateway game because it's so easy to learn, but I haven't played it in years now. It doesn't excite me to get back to the table at this point.
Yeah,
I want to try Arctic Scavengers though. You recommend that?
Yeah, that has a little bit more player interaction.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about. I have the old version. I don't know what they did with this new one that they came out with. I don't know if they changed anything in it or not. And I know there's an expansion. Well, the one I have came with 1 or 2 little expansions. It was only like 20 or 30 cards.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's a little bit more player interaction, a little more decision making, in that one than there was in Dominion.
Yeah.
And I did enjoy it. I didn't like the insert. I don't know why companies do that. I had to cut the bottom of it out so it would fit in the box, with the board. That's what it is. All right, so
we have a question here. What is your dream IP for a game? You mentioned The Walking Dead.
I would like to see a game by about The Shining. I think that would be an interesting game.
Yeah, you mentioned that we recorded the album near Halloween. I think you mentioned that.
Yeah. I like Stephen King. I'd also like to see one about the Dark Tower series, although I don't know how anybody would do that. It's a very complex series. But
yeah.
What about you?
Mine is a little smaller. There's a book that I really, really love called Red Rising. It's a dystopian sci-fi book that I just love. It's probably not even well known enough to pursue as an IP, but I am pursuing it. That's my right now. That's my dream IP. Like the bigger, like I love Star Wars. I love those giant IPs, but I don't know if I would enjoy designing a game with an IP that big. Like, there's almost too much responsibility there. Whereas Red Rising, I would have a lot more flexibility with. So for me right now, that's my dream IP.
Yeah, I can see that. I give a props to guys at Fancy Flight with the Game of Thrones and Star Wars, and they're kind of sensitive subjects there. Which me and Jen did a video over this little card game, Westeros. It was Game of Thrones Westeros. It was Knizia's remake of a Penguin game where he just built in a pyramid. And we were joking around saying, yeah, that one's dead, not thinking. And
right.
Got a lot of flack for that. It's like the book's been out 5-6 years.
Right.
But yeah, I can see how you got to watch bigger IPs.
Yeah.
Like I just ordered Ghostbusters, another Cryptozoa game. I'm waiting to see how they handle that. Although I heard it's a lot like Zombicide. I never played that one though, so we'll see.
Okay.
But I tend to steer away from IPs, to be honest with you. IDW is doing a ton of them lately, and I've only played X-Files, and it sucked in my opinion. It was not a fun game at all. That's another one. The expectations. It outstayed its welcome, I think.
Yeah.
And I thought it would be a good gateway game, and not really. I played it with brand new players. It's a little more. I think they were just bored out of anything, but
right.
Yeah, that kind of worries me.
Yeah, I think that's one of the nice things about a smaller IP. Like you don't have as much pressure from the fan base, maybe to follow the plots or follow the exact characters, because I think that creates huge game design challenges when you try to do that, and can result in a much worse game than if you had the flexibility to just like capture like the feel of the world. That's a lot different than capturing like the plot of a movie or the plot of a TV show.
Yeah, but that's kind of a double-edged sword. Fantasy Flight does that. Like they got that Middle-earth quest, and then the new Star Wars one, where you're secondary characters, and
right.
I think that kind of frustrates people, or they'd rather play Luke or Frodo in the case of Middle-earth quest or something like that.
That's true.
So I can see it being like a double-edged sword.
Yeah, I think the nice thing in Imperial Assault, which I think does have Luke, I know it has Han Solo, it does have Luke, is that you can, like, he'll join you for missions, and so you can control him, but you're not following, you're still like making your own choices for the plot. You're not following the plot of the movie, which even then I think sometimes can be fun. Like in Lord of the Rings, like, of course, like the plot is to destroy the One Ring, right?
Right.
There can't be another plot, and that's fun. Like you want to put yourself in that circumstance. But I like how Imperial Assault did it, because it gives you choices in a world that already exists or fictionally exists.
Yeah, I enjoy it, but I'm saying I guess how I've actually heard from people with that being a concern, not being able to play the main character.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed both the games I just mentioned, Imperial Assault and Middle-earth Quest, although Middle-earth Quest is long and huge. It's actually, if you take a Ticket to Ride board, you take two of them and set them side by side. That's Middle-earth Quest.
Wow.
It's a big game.
That's a big board, yeah.
It's one that doesn't get to the table too often. All right, so the last question is, if you were stuck on a deserted island with anybody, past, present, or future, what game would you play with them, and who would it be?
That is a good question. Yeah, I feel like I was asked part of that question during the Scythe campaign, and I had a good answer for the game. What was the game? I'm trying to think it. I think at first I answered Terra Mystica because it's one of my favorite games. Some people mentioned 504 because 504 is like, 504 games. That doesn't really interest me though. I don't know, Barry. It would be a tough situation. It might just have to be a deck of cards. Actually, no. Oh, this was what I thought of. Telestrations, because Telestrations has the whiteboards, and so I could tear out the whiteboards and design any game that I wanted to play using the whiteboards. So it's kind of a cheat.
Yeah.
I'll just say a deck of cards, because a deck of cards, you could play so many games with a deck of cards. And who would I be there with? I mean, it would have to be a beautiful woman that I would enjoy the company of on a deserted island. I'm going to sound chauvinistic by saying that, but if you're on a deserted island, you might as well be. I'm not married. I'm single, so that's what I'd do. You can go with your wife to the island, though, obviously.
No. I'm kidding. I love Jen. I don't show it sometimes. But yeah, we drag each other all the time, pick on each other. I've actually got comments about that. It is what it is. That's one thing that surprised me about this hobby, how sensitive people are. I would guess you would put it.
Yeah. Although I think it usually comes from a good place.
Yeah.
Usually, not always, but it's such a welcoming community. I mean, I think sometimes sensitivity comes along with that welcoming nature of it.
Yeah, it is. Like I said, I'm surprised. You could reach out to pretty much any game designer or publisher or whatever, and they'll talk to you, answer your question, come on your channel, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's a great community.
Yeah.
A very giving community, though.
Yeah, it is.
All right. So, is there anything else you want to touch on? I don't want to keep you too long.
We didn't really have an objective today. It was just fun to chat about stuff. It looks like we've answered all the questions that people had, which is cool. Thank you. Looks like Matthew, Sam, thanks for watching, guys. If there's anyone else watching, thank you for chiming in. Oh, Jonathan, thank you for watching as well.
Yes.
Yeah, and Barry, thank you for hosting it. I really appreciate this.
Oh, no, thanks for coming on. So if somebody wants to get a hold of you, how could they do that?
The easiest way is probably, I'm on Facebook and Twitter and website, all at Stegmaier Games. That's the easiest way to do it.
Okay, and what do we got? What do we got to look forward to in the future for Stegmaier?
The next thing coming up for us is our annual charity auction, where we auction off a special thing. And so this year, the special thing that we're auctioning off 10 of are the Viticulture Tuscany Collector's Editions. We've saved 10 of those, and we'll be auctioning those off in the first week of December. Just purely all for charity, and hopefully it'll for people who weren't able to get that game but want that version of the game, they'll be able to bid on it. So that's what's coming up next for us. And you're going to BGG-Con in a few hours. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I'm going to start driving about midnight or so. I live about an hour and a half outside of DC.
Okay.
And I want to steer clear of that in the morning.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be about a 20-hour drive for me.
Wow.
Yeah. Jen will be flying out Thursday. She's got some stuff over there. I just want to see some of the country. The furthest west I've ever been was Kansas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I hope the drive goes well.
Yeah, I should hopefully get a new car to deal with. So we'll see. It amazed me how expensive cars got in the last 5 years. Yeah,
Yeah.
just I was astonished. Yeah, but it's like everything else. Yeah.
Yeah. And gas is pretty cheap right now.
Yeah, it is. All right, so for everybody watching, thanks for watching and asking questions, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Have a good night, Barry. Take care.
See ya.